I go for the juice. And
Okay.
I'm also just glad that I get to spend time with you and get to know you as a human. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming to hang out.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this is the question I ask all humans when they get here is how do you introduce yourself to people right now?
Um, I say I'm Cole. I'm a writer. Usually leave it at that.
Because
Um,
because like because everyone's like, "Oh, you're a writer. What do you write about?" And that's where it's like, "Oh,
I know. Yeah, it always comes. Who do you write for? What do you write? I'm trying to really live into that part of myself.
mhm,
It's hard to own that part of yourself, own the title writer. It feels like it's something that
mm,
someone else has to give to you, but really it's not. It's the opposite. You just have to start calling yourself it. And I
mhm."
can never really explain what I write without making it sound very trite and like cringy.
I think it's only cringy like to our egos. Also, apparently my forehead is bleeding, so I'm just gonna
Oh,
wipe that
no.
off. Um, I think it's like cringy to our ego because like we know like in some ways we're judging ourselves because we have judged other people who have done similar things
Mhm.
and we have found them wanting or invalid. And so in the same ways we're looking at ourselves and we're seeing ourselves as like, well, what if they see the ways that I'm lacking as a writer or as a
Yes,
creative or as a whatever?
it's true.
Mm. Where do you live in the world?
I live in Ithaca, New York, so upstate, close to Cornell.
Hmm.
There's a lot of waterfalls here, but other than that, it's a pretty quiet town. Where are you?
Little town, it's a quiet village. I'm so sorry. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a house
Lucky.
here in Decatur with my little dog. Co-own this house with my mama. And when I get my monies right, I'm going to buy it outright, and I will own a house, which is
I love that.
cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Shout out to my mom for having good credit and letting me get on the loan with her because, uh, I'm just like, girl, let me tell you what, because like our family was like middle class to poor white slash Mexican, and so like
Okay.
the fact that my mom has been able to build any wealth is phenomenal to me.
Yeah, major.
So shout out to moms. Anyways, I want to talk about me. I want to talk about you.
We can talk about
What
you too.
well event. I mean, I talk about myself all the time. That's like half the thing about being an internet person. I was like, I just like talking. Anyways, uh, so I know you as the human who creates what's known on the internet as the black liturgies
Mhm.
and writing prayers and liturgies for black folk and the ways that religion kind of just like doesn't account for the pain and the suffering that is very specific to black and brown folks. So let's start with when did it start? Why did
Mhm.
it start? When and
Yes.
why?
It started, the beginning of July of 2020, so when
Mm,
everything was happening, and
the height.
yes, the entire world was ready to contend, at least for a little while, with with the death of Black people, the murder of Black people,
Hmm.
at the hands of white people, and I wasn't raised in a Christian home or, like, a overtly religious home, but I had been in liturgical Christian spaces and being formed in them for, I have been for the past 7 years now.
Mm,
Um, and I was just tired. I tell people when I'm most honest, Black liturgies, it really came because I was angry. It was born out of rage. I was just
hmm.
so angry at these spaces I was encountering that just weren't making adequate or they weren't making meaningful space for Black grief or Black rage or just
Hmm.
the nuance of Black people, the nuance of the Black emotional experience, and everything. I mean, even the most well-intentioned white woman. I mean, I remember the Sunday after um, Ahmaud Arbery was hunted down. When we said the prayers of the people in the church service that day, I knew it was a prayer of the people for white people. It was grounded in white guilt. It was grounded
Mm,
in white shock. She couldn't believe it. And I'm like, here I am reciting these things when I know, I don't need to
mhm,
be told. And I also don't want to confess because really I feel like I deserve an apology. And
mm,
so I was entering these weird places, these complicated places in the like liturgical setting where I'm like, this doesn't fit right now. And so I started Black liturgies hoping that I could just find some other contemplative minded, you know,
mhm.
people who were interested in that, Black contemplative minded people who were interested in that. And here we are.
Here we are, a whole thousands of followers later, a whole Patreon later, and now a whole book coming out soon later too, which is like,
Yes.
ah!
Yes. I can't believe it.
I mean, this is one thing I will say that I kind of love about being. I mean, there's so many reasons to hate being alive, and the thing I kind of love is that I grew up in an era, and I had the opportunity to have the internet
Mhm.
because that is how I found my people initially. And that's still
Mhm.
how I find people who I'm starting. I keep meeting all my new best friends all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
It's
find that as you were, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it's true. Like, for all the shit social media gets, rightfully so, like, I'll never completely reject it. I'll never completely chastise it because there's just something like, it's saving lives. It
Hmm.
is. It's problematic in many ways, but to be able to I mean, I'm in Ithaca, New York. When I see another Black person at the farmer's market, I wanna cry, like, we look at each other and we're just like, the space between, like, "You're
The
here."
space between, it's like the lights get low. We both see each other, and it's just like, are we going to say hello?
Yes, everything slows down. So it's just like it's yeah, social media has opened up ways for queer people, for people in white dominated spaces that I think, yeah, we needed in order to survive. So I'll never
Mhm.
completely chastise it.
I mean, I think we can chastise it, and also it's like you're allowed to love your problematic fave if you can like look at the problems too. Not all the time. Like Taylor Swift, that's someone I'll give people a pass for. Like, she can be your problematic fave.
Mhm.
Um, and also I'll admit I haven't listened to anything since 1985, so I really just can't even judge her content. I just she stopped after 1989, it just stopped doing it for me.
I really could name 3 Taylor Swift songs, period. I mean, people are gonna come for us. I don't know how I've
Come
avoided
for us and
it.
cancel us because we don't stand her in this house.
We
I mean, like, I think
Yeah.
she's great for what she's
Yeah.
doing.
She seems lovely. I
Yeah.
just I just don't click play. I just don't find myself
Yeah.
going.
What do
Anyways,
you click play on? What are you listening to right now that gets you like that makes you feel really good?
um, Alicia Keys' new album has been on repeat.
Hello.
Old memories. I just think she has the most beautiful voice. But I've been listening to this is gonna make me seem more sophisticated than I am. I've been listening to like a lot of instrumental music just because I've been writing so much, and I
Mhm.
feel like when I put instrument just piano music in the background, I feel like this weight, this like gravity and I
Mm.
kinda like step into a different self. I take myself more seriously,
Yeah.
honestly, um, without the words, and it's just kind of like this anyways, so I've been listening to a lot of piano music, instrumentals.
That's
Philip
cool.
Philip Glass, he's an excellent
Mm.
composer. Hopefully
If
he's hopefully he's not problematic. I've literally never Googled him.
I don't think so. It's like I mean, I'm sure all like if you're like a white contemporary composer, if you I'm sure. Like, I mean, I grew up in music world. Like, I was a choral singer for a good hot minute, and so it's just like, yeah, it's primarily a white space. But I
Mhm,
do like Philip Glass's work. He
mhm.
hasn't done anything publicly problematic. We'll say that. Not that I
Yeah.
know of. Um, can I ask about your creative process? Because like you were saying, like, because for me, at least when I'm writing stuff, I I feel like that is when I'm the most me. It's not even like a different self. It's like
Mhm.
I find a way to like drop into my own presence and
Mhm.
get really still to see what comes up. But what about you? Like you were saying, like I listen to this music, it feels like I step into a different space.
Mhm.
What's that like
Y
for you?
yeah. I I do. I think I don't think this is introversion necessarily, but I am introverted, and so when I'm with other people, I find myself either melding to them or really kind of shrinking inward, a lot of trauma responses. When I'm alone and I'm writing, I have to tap into a kind of confidence, a kind of I think it's a sacred arrogance, that writers have to have to believe that what you're putting like that it's worth reading, It's such a vulnerable act. It requires kind of a sacred arrogance, and I have to enter into it in a way that I don't always feel like I have access to in the other parts of my life, But you're right, when I'm
Mm,
in that creative moment, when I'm tapping into that, um, kind of truer self, it can come out, I can summon it. Mhm.
yeah. I sacred arrogance. That's so good because it really like you need to like you kind of need to like what you're writing. Like I
Mhm.
think I've never been the kind of person who is like writing is a torturous act or I hate writing or I've
Same.
never felt that. Even when like I wrote my first book, like it was so much fun to just see how these ideas began to string themselves together as you're putting it out there. But it doesn't feel like I'm not the tortured artist. That's never been my MO.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I feel like I have more energy in my body, more energy in me when I'm
Mhm,
writing than I mean, I do. I stay in bed, and it is a pretty solitary thing, I guess, in the physical. Mentally,
mhm,
I'm in the presence of others, but,
mhm,
I just feel so much energy. Like, I write the book that I've written, I wrote in definitely less than 3 months. Like, I would write a chapter in a
mhm.
day, and I just couldn't stop, and then I would, and so not all of us are tortured. Some of us are healed by it.
Yeah, and I think that really it's good medicine. So
Mhm.
I want to pull on that thread now. Like, what the fuck is what the fuck's your book about? Tell me.
Yes.
I'm so I saw the lungs on the cover and I was like, it's hot. It's so hot.
I'm glad. Yeah, so I wrote this book, I thought it was
What's that?
going
What are you entitling it?
This Here Flesh, Spirituality, Liberation, and the Stories That Make Us. Um, and This Here Flesh, it's a very subtle nod to a moment in a Toni Morrison novel, Beloved, the clearing, this famous scene of the clearing and the matriarch of the family. After this embodied exercise, you should read Beloved if you haven't. After this embodied intergenerational moment of weeping
Mhm,
and dancing and laughing, Baby Suggs gives this famous sermon in Beloved, and it says, in this place we flesh that weeps, laughs, flesh that dances on bare feet in grass, love it." And she gives this it says, I'm paraphrasing, don't come for me,
mhm,
Morrison stance, but she says, she didn't tell them to go and sin no more. And
mhm,
I love that Morrison wrote that. It was like a different kind of gospel message. It was about the body. It had nothing to do with like sin and being absolved, and
mhm,
everything to do with this intergenerational, emotional, embodied exercise, and then this declaration of loving the physical self. It's just like it's so beautiful. So it's the title is a very subtle nod to that, and I think when I wrote this book, I'm like, that's the kind of spirituality I want. Like, I wanna take people to the clearing. I wanna
mhm,
experience that kind of spirituality.
mhm. The kind of spirituality that is for like it's just like it's almost like you if you realize that you are redeemed by your own incarnation, like it's like yeah, like this world is apparently not perfect, but like what if this physical world is perfect and we just our thoughts about it? What if it's exactly what it needs to be? What if your body is exactly what it needs to be right now?
Mm.
Because apparently it is exactly what it needs to be right now because here it is being exactly what it is.
Mhm.
Because if it wasn't enough, I suppose it wouldn't be working, would it?
Mhm.
But that feeling of no more, like, you have an air about you of just like you're like you feel calm. I
Thank
don't know
you.
if like it feels nice to talk to you because I think like you really is like, oh, like you get it a little bit. Like you get that this whole thing is not so much just like, yes, like we need to show up and we need to go protest and we need to like change the system, etc. And I think what your work also nods to and what you feel like you're alluding to here is that we really need to take care of this too, this body,
Mhm.
these bodies,
Yes.
because if we don't, what's the point?
Mhm. Exactly. And I do think I'm kind of naturally calm. There was a season of life when was just like it was, 3 to 4 years max in college where I stepped into this very kind of witty, um I was playing pretend, and I had to leave myself so much, and I realized, like, "No,
Mm,
you're just a chill person, and that's fine." If people are energetic, you need that. But I feel more grounded in myself, you know? You hear people say this all the time, like, the older you get,
mhm,
the more grounded in yourself you are. I'm
mhm.
31, so I still have a ways to
No, listen,
go.
I'm 32, but I can tell you there's a shift from your 20s to your 30s. That's the
Mhm.
damn truth.
Yeah, where you're just like, I think you reach this point where you're like, "I'm just so exhausted of pretending. I'm so exhausted of self-hatred. I wanna just like, I just need to try something else for a little bit," you know? And hopefully it
Mhm.
sticks. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like the whole, at least that's what happened like in my 30s. It's just like I was like, I'm not going to like compromise when it comes to loving my body and myself.
Mhm,
And I think it really like I realized it was I was able to finally take account of everything that happened to me,
mhm.
for better or for worse. And Mary Oliver stands out there talking about the soft animal of your body in the wild geese. But
Beautiful.
like she says, like you just have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And when I heard that line, I just like, oh, my body is such a fragile thing. Like it just loves what it loves. And it's like
Mhm.
it's not his fault. He's just
Yes.
been trying to figure out how to remain in love. And he's been lied to a lot. You've been
Mhm,
and that kind of like sweetness and grace to just calmly redirect myself back towards love, towards myself, like it's really been the game changer.
mhm.
Um, what's been your spiritual practices that you've been keeping as of late that, or do you keep any spiritual practices right now?
I do, th they're they're so they're I don't know if they're strange or not. I won't
Hmm.
give a I won't give a disclaimer, but in the mornings, I begin with silence just
Hmm.
because, as I mentioned, I'm easily swayed in the presence of others, or not swayed, but I easily acquiesce, and it's just really good for me to be in silence and just attune with myself and my own
Hmm.
interior life. I started doing it during an Advent season, and then I just kept doing it. So I do that for about 45 minutes to an hour. It's lovely.
Dang.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. Can I just tell you, like, I'm an advocate for people doing 5 minutes a day. So when I hear people's like, yeah, I do about for 45 minutes, I'm just like, I'm just like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
evident.
Thank you. I mean, it's privilege, 100% it's privilege, I think. There's just
Sure.
no way that most people can do it. I'm like, "Oh, I'm really lucky to be able to have the rest of silence in my life." And then,
Hmm.
we do this really strange practice monthly that people always make fun of us for, but we practice darkness in our household, and 1 Sunday out of the month, we don't use artificial light. And it really is I think, a beautiful practice of, engaging the divine dark, the
Hmm.
beauty of darkness and kind of reclaiming that, and things things are beautiful in the dark, light is beautiful in the dark, a single candle makes the room look so
Yes.
much more beautiful than me flicking on, an artificial light. And,
Mhm.
you know, without taking us too far down a deep end, I've thought a
No,
lot
take
about,
you
like
to this is where we live. We live in the deep
okay,
end. Go
right.
there.
I think a lot, and I'm not the first to think a lot about how things like artificial light and just control shapes us as technology grows, and we have so much control. And what does it mean that, when I can't see when it's dark, I have the control to just rip myself out of the discomfort of darkness or the
Mhm.
disorientation? Like, how is that forming me? And I hope people like listening are experiencing know that this is kind of metaphoric, of course. There's nothing
Of
wrong with
course.
artificial light. But I think there's something really beautiful about the metaphor of being people who are capable of remaining in the
Mhm.
darkness, in the unknown, in the mystery, and who aren't so quick to just rush to the quick resolution of an answer of enlightenment, so to speak, or of making a situation less comfortable, taking someone out of grief, ripping someone out of the pain
Mhm.
of darkness. So, anyways, we do that once a month, and we it's always hard. It's always harder than we think it's gonna be, but it's
Hmm.
always special.
What's Can I ask what feels hard about it?
It's really it's there's an inconvenience to it, to
Okay.
lighting a candle. Like, you go to the bathroom, you can't just go to the bathroom, you have to account, and it requires this attention to objects in the room, and the work that, the people who live with me, the work that our bodies do, and the ways we, control the space that we occupy, moving a chair, and it's like, that means something different when other people
Mhm.
don't have access to the information. So you have to be aware of your body, you have to be aware of the control you exert over a, like, shared space. Um, yeah.
Hmm. That's fascinating and beautiful. And I feel like I want to borrow that practice because
Do it.
I like seriously like that sounds like one of the most delicious things is also just like I know that I sure as hell don't disconnect from the internet enough
Mhm.
because I think I will be able like once March gets here and I'm done with like I'm on the phone with like 4 to 5 people a day like interviewing people for my cohort and like who like which is great and I'm glad to do it but man like I'm gonna be glad when this little 2 weeks is over because I am
Yes.
just I have like there's like honestly I have not been off my phone for more than 24 hours since I've come out. You know, I haven't really taken space away from the internet.
Wow.
Mostly because like it's where I pay my bill. It's how I pay my bills.
Mhm.
And so like there's this part of me that's just like if you don't feed the beast, you don't eat.
Mhm.
And in some ways that is true, but other ways it's quite untrue.
Mhm.
It's um my hope is this year that I am going to be able to take maybe even like in my wildest imagination, I would like to take a whole month off and
Mhm.
completely be off the internet
Yeah. I want
and
I
just
want that for you. I want that for you. You deserve that. Honestly, it's not fair that
hmm,
it just doesn't seem it's not fair that you have to remain in a space so that you can get a paycheck. Even like, I know that's the world we live
mhm,
in, but I just think, like, when you said
yeah,
that, like, my stomach dropped because 'cause I'm like, "It's not fair because you give so much of yourself. It's not a normal job.
mm,
So you've given so much of yourself, and you're expected to do it."
mhm,
Ugh. Anyways, I want that for you.
yeah.
Maybe visit, like,
Ah,
retreat center or something, and
like I would love because like there's some places in Georgia even that are just like have like silent retreat places you can go to.
mhm,
So it's there. My hope is as I hopefully set up all my finances for the coming year, I'll be able to do that.
mhm.
Because as you're saying that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I think you might be right. Like this is actually something that's a lot more. It needs to be more important to me because,
Mhm,
like, I don't know, like, especially like I'm sure you understand it because if you're a person of any sort of presence on the internet. If it's like the thing I want to do here on this plane is like I want to help people feel happy again, and
Yeah.
in order to do that, like I really need to be able to I have to take care of myself if I want to continue to do the thing I want to do.
Mhm. Yeah. And you need people who are gonna take care of you with you,
Mm,
as opposed to, like I not all social media communities are like this, some can be mutual, but I feel like
mm,
for people like you, it can be one-sided has a negative connotation. I don't mean it to be, that's just
mm,
the nature of it, but
no.
it's like you need people who are coming for you,
Mm,
who are trying
yeah.
to so I want
Yeah.
community care for you, I want self-care for you. What practices do you have that
Mm,
make you feel renewed?
mm. I keep a daily meditation practice, and some kind of movement. It'll either be yoga, or I'll go on a walk, or I'll go to the gym and lift weights and get on the bike and shit.
Love that.
And that's mostly every day. So like I feel like along with like doing all the work, I do a lot of like care work so I don't feel overly burdened or burned out.
Mhm.
Um And when I do feel the burnout, it's very obvious, and I move stuff around. I'm also never afraid to take a nap or cancel something in the middle of the day because I'm tired. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna fall asleep in the middle of our call. We have to reschedule.
Love that. I need
Um,
that.
and I tell people too, like, if you have to cancel for literally, like, we have to present something, and like we're like there's somebody counting on us. Cancel with me. Reschedule as many times as you need to, like,
Mhm.
because like I know that I've had weeks where it's just like shit hits the fan, everything falls behind, and everything falls off because I just gotta. I have to rest. So, answer
Mhm.
question: meditation, some form of movement, um, and resting. I think is a, a big part of it. I try to nap every day for at least 30 minutes if I can.
Love that.
Even if it's like I sit and just like close my eyes, or I actually lay down, or I stare out the window, or I just be quiet for 30 minutes. Um, so like it's whatever shape it takes. But I don't like. I think the coolest thing about it is I really don't feel guilty about rest anymore. Um, and in fact, like I'm dreaming of ways to enter into more of it.
Hmm. Good.
Like I'm a big fan of Miss Trisha, our Nat Bishop of the Nat Ministry.
Oh, me too. She's like
Uh,
prophetess. I'm obsessed with her. I quote her in my book multiple times. She's amazing.
and I'm just like, and I don't like. I was like, I so want. She lives in Atlanta or around the Atlanta area, and I'm like, I don't want to bug you, but like, I'd love to make you dinner sometime if you want to hang out. I've got a back porch, but I'm just
You're
like,
s
she's so maybe she'll say yes. Maybe I should say something. Hey,
yeah.
Trisha, if you're listening, holler.
Honestly, if I
Is this
lived
how
in
we act?
Atlanta, I would. Have you
Uh,
gone to any of her nap experiences?
I've not been able to because a lot of it was happening. Like she was at my seminary a semester before I started, and
Okay.
so I was like this close to intersecting. Um, we did have like a little like DM chat one time, so like we know. I think maybe we know of each other,
Mhm.
um, but just I think like I've learned, and this is something I kind of uh, I will hang my hat on. Is just like the best theologies, the best writing about life, the best practicums I have learned has come from uh, women, people of color, um, who it's like I don't have to doubt the validity of their experiences because it's just
Mhm.
like I know that my suffering is very very different from the suffering they're in. But like I'm reading Christina Cleveland right now for her new book,
Yes.
God
So
is a Black
good.
Woman. Oh, and I tell you what, like what I'm, and I said the same thing about I'm Still Here, is that they're like, it's the Martin Luther King quote of they're the most under protected,
Mhm.
appreciated, etc. is the Black woman.
Mhm.
And to be able to see resilience in the face of systematic suffering has shown me, I'm just like, wow, I don't know, it gives me strength to show me that, just like, I know you think that you've been like, yes, Kevin, you have been through hard stuff, and also you're not alone in this. You've never been alone. That's what, like, I
Mhm.
think I hear more than anything in these writings from these
Mhm.
amazing teachers.
Yeah, definitely. So good.
Hmm.
Christina Cleveland's book, I've been saying this, my book would be 10 times better if I had her book. If I'd read her book before I wrote mine. So I keep telling people, yeah, you could probably just skip certain sections of my book and just,
No.
just, um, no, but we're all on a journey. And the beautiful thing about that book is like you're on this Christina Cleveland's book, you're on this
Hmm.
pilgrimage with her. You're traveling to these
Hmm.
different Black Madonnas with her, and it makes me wanna do this embodied experience. I'm like, take me."
All I
I'll
want to do is go on a long walk. That's all. I'm
Yes.
just like, I have to go. Like,
Mhm.
something's calling me. I need to get out there.
Yes. I wanna see all of these Black Madonnas. I mean, yeah, beautiful.
I want that for you. I think
Thank you.
maybe you got a pilgrimage ahead of you too. Shit.
Yes. We started a GoFundMe for, like, a dozen Black women to go on a pilgrimage to these Black Madonna. I'm sure Christina Cleveland actually probably has something
If
planned.
not, we should figure something like I'll um I'm very excited. I'm going to be talking to her next week for the podcast.
Yes.
And so I'll say, "Hey, we've got an idea. Take it or leave it."
You already have
Um
one sign up, you have one registrant.
yes. I she's ready to go. I
Mhm,
I really do dream, like, I think for queer folks, I mean, at least for, like, this is my dream, like, my big dream is to be able to create spaces and places, like, I wanna create more retreats for folks whose faith has, like, exploded and they're trying to figure out what they wanna do with it.
mhm,
Um, I wanna create queer retreats and, like, queer clergy retreats and just all of these spaces, because it's like I have always benefited from, I don't know, the curation of a good space
mhm,
and being able to heal alongside other people.
mhm,
That's just, and I want us to be able to go travel too. Like, there's so many of us because we're so fucking broke as millennials. It's like the
mhm.
only time I got to travel was in college, and that's because, like, my choir went on tour
Yeah.
and I still had my dad's credit card. So, like, that's the it's like, that's the thing. It's just like I left college and I was done. I got a rude awakening. It was the best thing that could have happened to me. I'm very grateful
Mm,
in some ways, although, like, God, the debt.
it's hard. Yeah.
Mm.
I
Anyways,
know, and to have retreat spaces where you're finally free, I think you've probably been on them as well, these retreats, and it's like they beg you to go to these places in yourself, and then you look around and you realize this isn't safe, and I've gone to this place, and
hmm,
I'm surrounded by people who can't care for me and hate me or hate my body or hate my queerness or whatever. And then
hmm,
it's like so many I just feel like that's a beautiful idea because so many retreat spaces that I've been in have could have been so rich and beautiful, but in the end were dampened by the fact that I couldn't actually share with anyone what was actually stirring in me?
hmm,
And so I haven't I don't really go on retreats. I haven't gone on retreats in ages. I'm like, "Huh, what would it be like to go on one in a truly spiritually liberative,
hmm,
you don't need to think anything. We're not asking you to believe anything.
hmm.
It would be
Yeah.
nice."
Deal. Then let's do that. Let's
Yeah.
figure out. Like, I like, because, like, of course, like, my brain, like, I don't know if you're the kind of person who, like, I fantasize about things I want to do all the time. So I'll create an entire mood board budget, the whole nine of what I would need to do to pull off something like this. And I love the idea of, like, of fun being deeply connected to it. So wherever we go, there needs to be a pool and a hot tub.
Mhm.
I don't give a fuck. Like, because yes, we can sit around and feel the feelings. And also, it would be really nice to just like get, be together and be giddy and stupid. To
Yes.
just be silly for once, to be as silly as we are.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
Mm,
true. I need more of that. I need more of that in my life. And, like, the playfulness, you know? I need other
yeah.
people to bring that out in me instead of these spaces that are just completely emotionally taxing and, you know.
Yeah, it's like not every retreat needs to be, okay, we're going to go to the deepest part of ourselves and we're going to confront the shadow. I mean, great if you need that. Like I need equal parts heavy and light.
Mhm.
I want to talk about some shit. I want to cry a little bit, but most of the time I want to take a shot of tequila with somebody and then go for a walk,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
I just That's what I want. I have a
Mhm.
question now too, kind of like pivoting from that. Because we talked about at the beginning how you were encountering in these incredibly white religious spaces nowhere for your experience to be taken into account and honored as a black woman.
Mhm.
Uh, and so you created this new thing. I'm wondering, and this is a question I ask a lot of people, if there was such a thing as an ideal spiritual community, you know, what would that look like for you? Like, what would like a typical,
Hmm.
what would be good for you?
This is a good imagination exercise. I think first and foremost, it would need to be a space where my belonging didn't depend on what I believe, what doctrine I believe, what creed I've confessed, all of that stuff. I think
Bingo, bingo, bingo.
I personally am just pretty done with spiritual spaces that demand that in order to achieve some kind of sense of belonging. Not all belonging is good belonging, by the way. And so I'm just
Ding
very
dong.
very suspicious of those spiritual spaces, and I think ideally it would be a space where there's a lot of curiosity, a lot of, wondering, a lot of people changing their minds, Someone asked me in an interview the other day, "Well, are you Christian?" And I'm like, don't ask, I don't know. Like, ask me Wednesday and I'll probably say yes, but if you ask me Thursday, I'll probably say I don't know, and, like, I want room, I want spiritual spaces that allow people to have multitudes in them, to have complexity, to have maybes and mystery and, um, yeah, more questions than answers, really. And
Mhm,
play, I need that. I want an emotional experience, an embodied experience, and I want that to contain,
mhm,
to integrate joy and lament and rage and stories, I'm asking
mhm.
for it all. Really am
Yes. I think you should. I absolutely think you should ask for exactly what you want because, like, that's, like, where I am too, like, I am a part of a lovely community in Atlanta called Park Avenue Baptist. It is not perfect. There's 1,000 things that frustrate me about it, and it is one of, like, the coolest spaces ever because, like, where in the world are you going to find a mostly queer worship band, a mostly queer preaching pulpit
Mhm,
with black people and trans people and disabled folks and homeless folks, excuse me, houseless folks, all in one space.
mhm,
And with the whole purpose of we want to let you know that you're welcome to be here and to be a part of this if you'd like to be. That's so rare. And
mhm.
it's
It
so
is.
beautiful. So I look at my community, I'm just like, it ticks a lot of the boxes. They really don't give a shit what you
Mhm,
believe or don't believe. They know what I believe. They know that I'm like a woo woo tarot card reading witchy ass bitch who like cusses and is non monogamous and like talks about my sex on the internet too much. Like they let me preach,
mhm,
and I'm like, it's not perfect, but man, like where it counts, it's
mhm.
good. That's
Yeah.
what I want. It's like
Mhm,
I don't need like I've never been in places that, like, apologized when
mhm.
people drop the ball,
Yeah.
and we do. Um, the thing that would make it even better, and I imagine, is, like, I am very much somebody who I want to take, like if we're gonna be Christian, whatever that means. my my eyes are gonna get stuck back here when I roll them so hard one day. Because I'm the same thing as you. I don't care if people. I don't care. I don't care to identify myself as a Christian, and I don't care if people identify me that way either. It's like
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know what it means
Mhm.
personally.
And it just means so many different things to different people, so it's like, sometimes it's like, it depends who's asking, you know? Like, to you, probably not, you know? So it's a complicated, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
complicated question. I'm in a place where I'm like, I try to be honest, I try to be transparent to always say, I've been formed recently in a
Hmm.
Christian tradition, and try to be transparent about that.
Yeah.
And while also making it clear that, like, I just want to, if there's anything I'm trying to preserve, it's my connection with the spiritual. I wanna be
Hmm.
a person who asks the questions of, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be loved? You know? Um, what am I wanna be connected to the spiritual. I have less allegiance to waking up every day and believing that Jesus was divine, you know? Because
Yeah.
I'm not always gonna be able to muster that. So I know that my spirituality for me can't just rely on what kind of belief I'm mustering any given day.
Woo! Come on, Pastor. That's it.
Mhm.
I want to frame that quote. My faith can't have anything to do with anything about a belief on any given day.
Mhm.
Because like that's the thing too. Is like I can claim to believe something, but like it's the feeling that I want out of everything is just like, at least for me, like I just want to feel peace. I
Mhm.
just want to like, at the end of the day, if I get nothing else from a spiritual practice, that's what I really want. Because when I'm there, I'm home, and when I'm home, I can do anything else I need to do.
Mhm.
I think that too much of I think because a lot of Christianity and Christian practice doesn't make room for grief and lament and for protest and for uh for taking
Mhm.
issue with the thing. Um, we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to
Yeah.
grieve. We don't know how to identify even the pain that we're experiencing in our bodies because we're so up here the entire time.
Mhm.
Just faith is a mental exercise instead of an embodied experience.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that for me, I want that to shift.
Mhm. Me too. It's a lot of work to undo that. I think white intellectualism, white Christian intellectualism
Hmm.
has a real grasp on many of us, myself included, where you feel
Hmm.
like it has to be up here, like, this is the truest thing, you know, as opposed to
Yes.
my flesh having this truth, this embodied knowledge, and there being wisdom in, you know, the way that my heart races, you know, at a certain moment in time, or the way that I feel pressure in my chest to realize that there's so much knowledge about the world, about ourselves, about the divine that I think our bodies contain. But of
Hmm.
course, you know, whiteness, capitalism, they don't want us,
Benign.
they don't want us in our bodies. So,
They want us exhausted so we don't have time to think about these things.
mhm. Yes.
Like, and so many people are still out here like I remember talking to my mom. I think I've slowly moved my family, even though like because like yes, we're half Mexican, but we're white passing, so like we were all raised white, etc. Uh, but I think I finally got my brothers on the living wage train and like unionization train
Mhm.
from just these small things of just like, hey, imagine you. I said, Patrick, like you've got this amazing house, you got this job. I'm just like that Taco Bell worker has got 3 kids and no spouse to help them out. Do they need to be working 2 jobs so that they can so they can pay someone else to raise their kids?
Mhm.
Or should they work one job so that they can continue to raise their kids? Like it's just like wouldn't it be better if someone at the top who's making millions, who's never going to spend all that money in his life, take a little bit of that and just wouldn't
Mhm.
that be better? It's these small little things of just like I mean, like, I've been poor as shit. I'm like, I'm the kind of girl who like sometimes it dips below just on a Wednesday in the bank
Mhm.
account. But
Yeah.
I also know like what it is to be taken care of by my community.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. There's just the disconnect, I think, for many people is that, like, I've never had to feel that before because of what whiteness has done. Because, like, the only thing I can afford to do right now is to go to work and to wake up and to pay my bills and to figure
Mhm.
out how I'm going to do XYZ things.
Yeah.
And it keeps us on this hamster wheel. And until we realize, like, that's what they're doing to us,
Mhm.
and make a decision to say, I'm going to choose to rest now. I'm going to choose to love myself regardless of what I have done and what I think I should be doing. I think that's the real,
Mhm.
I mean, that for me, that's what the meaning of be transformed by the renewing of your mind means.
Mhm.
Like, be transformed by the knowledge that do you not know that your bodies are temples, baby?
Mhm.
Of the, like, how can you worship the divine if your temple is in shambles? My God.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is, how can you experience the joy and peace that is the presence of love, God, the universe, the Christ, if you are constantly in crisis? You can't. And that, I think, is why, I'm so grateful for your work, because you you put uh you put words on feelings, which is like putting flesh on bones,
Thank you.
and that allows people to just, like, naming the thing is the first part of healing it. And you just, I'm sure it's not effortlessly, but, like, the way I observe it, it is the most beautiful, effortless, just like, here it is. Here, like, here we are. And I'm just so grateful that you chose to start. And I'm grateful for the ways that your book is gonna just transform a lot of people, I think, in the best way,
Thank
because we're
you.
really learning how to be in this here flesh, baby.
Mhm. Thank you. I
Mm,
appreciate that.
of course. It's my pleasure. I won't. Yeah, I like you. I think you're cool.
I've always thought you were cool. When you messaged me, I was like, "Is this real? What's happening?"
Shh.
I was like, "Is he sure? Is he
Yeah.
sure?"
That's the thing. Is just like, it's I'm just, the thing is, like, when we hang out in real life, which one day I'm sure we will, like, I'm sure we'll be delightfully underwhelmed. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just like, "Oh, you really are just a delight to be around. Let's,
Mhm.
you wanna have a smoke? Can I get you some whiskey?" That's great. It's kinda how I live.
Yeah.
Um, Before we hang up, I've got 5 cues I'm trying to ask all the humans at the end of the interview
Okay.
that kind of just ties it all together. So it's just 5 easy questions. You ready?
Mhm.
What is one thing you like about yourself?
My writing.
Mm. Also, way to go. So many people, like, feel I it's like when singers say, "Oh, I hate my voice. I love singing." What? Good.
Uh,
What's one thing you are super proud of in your life?
um, I'm proud to own land. I never had an imagination for owning land. We own about 8 acres, and yeah, it's really special to connect with it, to care for it, really. I try to
Mhm,
think about it as a caring and a nurturing as opposed to, like, a ownership, but I am proud of
mhm.
it. I'm proud to be caring for it.
That's beautiful. All the way up in Ithaca. That's
Mhm.
nice. What's one thing that really pisses you off? Or is like a pet peeve even?
Mm. Um, I this is definitely a pet peeve.
Bring it.
It's not nice, but I really hate to repeat myself. I cannot explain why. Like, when my spouse does when I have to say something again, I'm like, I've said it so clear." It's really probably some childhood
Mhm,
insecurity shit, but it's like, if I say something clear and I've said it, and then someone's like, "What?" But I know they don't actually mean what, they're just trying to
mhm,
think of something to say. Anyways, don't like repeating
mhm.
myself.
I'm there too. I'm just like, are you not comprehending what I'm saying? Or do you not actually understand? Or are you?
Are you stalling? You know? I'm like
I'm just like, be quiet if anything. Like,
right.
just take it in, process, and then come back with something.
Mhm.
I'm very
Yes.
similar, similar. Um, what's one thing you're super dedicated to?
Um,
Or just dedicated, not even super dedicated, just dedicated. Regular,
that's
degular,
such a good
dedicated.
question. I think I'm yeah. I think I'm really dedicated to my sister in this season. The
Mm.
pandemic, I love my sister. Oh, she's like
Yay.
the best parts of me. And yeah, I just feel like the pandemic has brought us close, and I feel this, I feel very protective of her. I'm the younger sister,
Mm,
and so it's weird to experience this shift of, like, I feel protective. So,
mm.
yeah.
I love that. I am the third of 4 sons, and my little brother is we're only 15 months apart. So
Oh.
really, we're practically the same age, and I found out recently, I've always thought of him as my little brother. He's out there younger than me. He's he's 31 years old. He has a baby and he bought he per, like he's had a job for like 10 years now. And I'm out here thinking he's so much younger than me. Like we were talking the other day, and he's like, "Kevin, I've always thought of us as like practically the same age." I'm like, "Really?" Because I'm out here thinking you're like way far behind me for some damn reason. Anyways, last cue. What's one thing you want to do before you die?
Hmm. I really wanna create, some kind of archive some kind of, archive. I wanna collect the histories of my family as best we can, these
Mm,
stories that everyone has that we're telling. I mean, you see a bit of that in the book, but
mhm,
I'm really energized. I'm really just interested in the project of, like, collecting stories from
mhm.
unlikely places and unlikely people and recording them. So recording their mannerisms and these things that they do. And before I die, I would love to have like, a meaty kind of collection of family
Mhm.
stories that can be preserved.
I love that. I fucking love that. You're so fucking cool, Cole.
Am
Cole,
I?
you're so cool.
I know some people do call me that, so it didn't feel strange, but,
It was one of those things where like my very southern like the omission of it's the silent L at the end. Cole.
mhm.
It's like it almost like it curls over the top.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I feel very lucky, blessed, and thankful to have had my time with you, and I cannot wait for your book. It's going to be such a sensational thing. When does it come out? And where can people find it? And where can humans find you on the internet and give you money and shit?
Yes, the book comes out February 22nd, available anywhere books are sold,
That's
per
next Tuesday.
I know, it's so
Oh
soon.
well then you know what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna I'm gonna push this episode up to this Thursday and then put Audrey Assad's out next Friday. Or maybe it's a double episode week because you both have things coming out next week. So actually double episode week. Cool.
Cool. Thank you. Yes, it's coming
Yeah.
out so soon. I put your book in the mail yesterday, so it's coming to you.
Can't wait to cry.
As far as finding me, you can find me if you are interested in a Black prayer project, a Black liturgy project, you can follow me at Black Liturgies on Instagram. If you just are interested in me, at Cole Aurthur Riley on Instagram, at Black Liturgist anywhere else. Yeah.
Mm, 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 mm. Well, what a time. Thank you
Thank
for
thank
everything.
you. Thanks for I'm glad we could do this.